Public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Great. Does anybody have any comment about the warrant or the mini warrant for the special town meeting that's before them?
I just have one note to bring up on Article 9.
Okay.
Previously, you guys had said that you wanted to go with bonding. That's what's in there. The only thing that I wanted to point out was in discussing with our bond counsel, he was unable to get bids in time for this to be presented. So we're going with estimate numbers, and his recommendation was that we use the most conservative estimates. So you'll see that the interest is higher as a result of estimating at a more conservative 20-year term and a higher interest rate of 3.5%.
Yep.
And this gives us some room to make a determination when those bids come in, what is the best course for the town.
Okay. Okay, it is what it is. How far off was this from where you think it might be? Do you have a feeling?
Sorry?
How far high, how much higher is this than where you think it might be? Just so
I just did a quick search, and I think we're looking probably closer to 2% on interest, if not below that.
Okay. Oh, wow, all right. No comments, no comments. All right. Okay, hearing no comments, I would take motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, post public hearing. All right, so we should cruise through these and vote on these down.
Yes.
Yeah, you can either do it now or you can do it later under new business.
Do we have anybody waiting to get out of here? No? Okay, why don't we just get these out of the way? All right. Article 1, to elect a moderator by written ballot to preside at the meeting.
I would move the board recommends approval.
I would second that.
Good, all in favor? See if non-voters shall be allowed when recognized to speak during the March 8, 2022 special town meeting.
I would move the board recommends passage.
I'll second that.
Good, all in favor? Okay, for Articles 3 through 5, an underline indicates an addition and a strike through indicates a deletion, okay? I'm not going to read these through. Article 3, I'll just give it a brief overview. Shall an ordinance be dated March 8, 2022 entitled Amendments to the Land Use Zoning Ordinance to remove footnote 4 from some permitted uses? Okay.
Typically, haven't we had Noel
Yes,
here to kind of go over these?
he had a public hearing, I guess,
Okay.
on these
On
before.
the 19th of
Yeah.
January.
I'm still
And we
here.
can-
I'm actually here.
You are.
Okay. Just if you have any comment about any of these in particular, like the 30-second synopsis, that might be helpful, Noel.
Article 3 is an article that was actually skipped over at the annual town meeting because there was some errors in the language that was a little misleading. So this basically actually makes the footnote more in line with what the state shoreline zoning requirements are. It doesn't actually change any of the allowed uses, just it relates to different requirements for permitting, different aspects of things that are in the stream protection district. But it's more in line with state shoreline standards. It doesn't require you to go to get a variance for things you really can't get a variance for.
It sounds reasonable.
In that case, I would recommend or move that we recommend passage.
I'll second it.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, Article 4, shall an ordinance dated March 8, 2022 entitled Amendments to Section 6B1B.11 lots regarding lot access be enacted as set forth below. Okay. Could you give us a brief?
Absolutely, yep. So as many of you know, there's a lot of lots in the town of Mount Desert that are accessed by either roads or driveways that don't meet current dimensional standards. This provision in the ordinance will help address that by allowing a little more flexibility when you're an existing lot that was created prior to June 2015, I believe it is. In that you don't have to meet certain standards, and you can then go and get a permit through the code enforcement office. And then if you're creating new lots, you still need to meet certain standards. And then the provisions of the subdivision ordinance that require you to go to planning board if you want to have the planning board waive certain road requirement standards and whatnot still exists as a safety valve. But if you're an existing lot and you had access and legal access to get to your lot prior to June of 2015, this ordinance allows for more flexibility for you to do that without having to go through other ways of providing access. But it still maintains the provision or the main standard, which is to provide safe access for emergency vehicles to different lots. So it's a way to help simplify permitting and allowable development on lots that already exist, basically.
Okay.
Kim, if I think, yeah, if you have any more detailed questions.
Yeah. This came up before, right?
We've been working on this for a little while. And that was the reason why a couple of years ago, we added something to the subdivision ordinance that allows an applicant to go into the planning board and ask them to provide a waiver for certain dimensional standards that are subdivision related. But we've been working on the language on this for a little while. But I think sometimes you guys even have to approve different things. It really just simplifies the ability for somebody to do something on a lot that existed prior to standards being put in place that made their lot non-conforming because of access.
Good. All right.
All right, well, I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
I'll second that.
Good. All in favor? Article 5, shall an ordinance dated March 8, 2022 entitled Town of Mount Desert Fire Prevention and Protection Emergency Medical Services Ordinance be adopted. The purpose of this ordinance is to govern the municipal fire department and provide fire protection and emergency medical services for the town of Mount Desert in accordance with Title 30A MRSA Section 3152(1A).
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Article 6, shall the voters of the town of Mount Desert authorize the Board of Selectmen of the town or its designated and negotiate and enter into an agreement providing for the acquisition of assets, liabilities, and operations of the Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service into the town's fire department, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen or its designates to execute any and all contracts, agreements, certificates, and other instruments as they deem necessary or convenient to accomplish the purposes of this article.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
I would second that.
All in favor?
Roll, I don't want to hear it. I'll let you guys keep going.
Okay. Article 7, fiscal policy. Shall the voters of the town of Mount Desert authorize the acceptance of a grant in a maximum amount of $135,000 from the Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service, the acceptance of which is conditioned upon the town's agreement with NEHAS to use the funds to support wages, benefits, roll-up, and other associated personnel costs, including training for new firefighters, emergency medical technicians, to be hired by the town prior to the end of the town's fiscal year, with any remaining balance dedicated to future fire EMS personnel costs.
I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
I will second that.
Good, all in favor? Good. Article 8, shall the voters of the town of Mount Desert vote to create a new fire EMS department operating reserve account to house and track monetary donations from the Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service and other benefactors of the town's fire EMS services?
I had a question about this.
Mhm.
And maybe Mike could answer. Does this eliminate the need for there was a 501c3 or a not-for-profit organization that was disbanded because they failed to file or something like this? Does this eliminate the need for that?
It does not.
Okay.
That's the Mount Desert Fire Rescue Association, and the purpose of that organization is to accept donations to the fire department.
Okay,
This here is intended to, those that wanted to still give to Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service specifically for EMS. It allows those individuals to donate, and it goes into a reserve account set up, especially for those purposes, for EMS-related training, EMS-related equipment, things like that.
Good.
So it's not a general fire department call.
Yeah, which would keep a lot of people from donating.
Right,
Yeah.
there's still people out there that want to continue to donate more for the EMS.
Yep.
Part of that.
Okay.
okay.
Are they still gonna have the road race? That's the big question.
If I have to do it, no.
Fair, good question.
He's honest. I
That's
like the
okay, yeah,
honesty.
yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine that, transparent answer in today's world.
Do I have a motion?
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
And I would second that.
And all in favor? Article 9, shall the town of Mount Desert be authorized to issue general obligation bonds or notes of the town in a principal amount not to exceed $1 million to finance professional and technical services, including project management services and construction costs associated with improvements to the Somersville Fire Station located at 1157 Main Street in the town of Mount Desert, with said improvements being made to accommodate anticipated staffing, storage, and so forth.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
I would second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, good. Now, minutes. I will accept the motion to approve the minutes from January 3rd, January 18th, and January 24th.
I would move approval of the minutes as presented for those 3 dates.
We may want to, I abstained the last meeting, I think from a wrong, minutes for January 3rd were minutes from a meeting where I wasn't here.
Okay.
All right, so-
And the 24th was that meeting on Zoom that I missed like
Okay,
half
so
of it.
we'll do these independently.
All right,
Approval of minutes from January 3rd.
So moved.
second,
All in favor?
I'll abstain.
And one abstention. Approval of minutes from January 18th.
So moved.
second,
All in favor? Approval of minutes from January 24th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
and I'll
And
abstain.
one abstention on Matt's behalf. All right. Appointments, recognitions, and resignations, none presented. Consent agenda. Versant Power Meter Replacement Project Notice. Standard monthly required notice of municipal solid waste bypass to to PERC. Hancock County Commissioners meeting minutes from January 4th and January 19th.
I'll move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented and passed. What do we do there? Accept it?
Except
Yep,
you
accept as
acknowledge
read.
it. as
Acknowledge it.
printed.
As read, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll second it.
good. All in favor? Selectmen's reports. Anybody have any reports?
I have one item, and I don't think we normally announce this, but I know it's difficult to find people. Difficult decision, but I decided I will not be taking out papers for this coming election, so there will be potential for a new face on the board, which I think is a positive. And I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
Oh. Well, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's been an interesting and educational experience, and I've enjoyed it, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I, on the other hand, made the opposite decision, and I have taken up papers to
Good.
run again, so.
I have I mean, it's personal, it's not a report per se, it's just a question, and perhaps, I don't know if Tony's on or not, but they do the best they can, obviously, to clear sidewalks. And sometimes what I've noticed is that in my neighborhood, at least, in Soamesville, some of the plow guys that come around and do people's driveways then will block the sidewalk with their plow work. And I'm wondering if is the town ever, do we ever issue any sort of request that they not do that or fix what they've done? Or is there, do you know? Hi, Tony.
Go ahead, Tony.
Sure, thanks. This is the year where people are, I'll try to be polite, are asking a lot of questions as to why we put snow where we put snow. But Jeff, in answer to your question, no, we haven't. I guess what we could start doing is asking the property owners randomly throughout the winter, pick a handful and ask them. Because by asking one, we may get a company that does a whole different, a whole bunch of those driveways.
Okay.
But I've had calls where we blocked a sidewalk in a particular location. It was actually the property owner's plow person that blocked the sidewalk. We went
And I
down.
know the Stonesville sidewalk is challenging, to say the least.
Yes.
Because it goes up and down and it gets narrow and everything else. But yeah, a couple of those driveways, after you're done with doing the best that your guys can do, it's all for naught because they get blocked again by somebody's driveway berm.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
we'll make an effort, Jeff, to knock on some doors.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
That being said, the guy that does the sidewalks in Otter Creek does a brilliant job. No problems.
Excellent. Thank you, John. I'll pass that on.
Was I complaining?
No. Any other reports? No. Unfinished business, none presented. New business, consider Mary Knoll, Hall Quarry resident, as recipient of Mount Desert's Boston Cane Award.
So in my memo, I outlined that I had posted notice and posted in the paper, didn't get any responses to that. But we did do a search of our records, and Marie, by far, is the oldest remaining resident here in town. And so I put her name forth. And we had talked about maybe presenting it to her at the town meeting in March, but given weather and whatnot, she may not want to leave her home.
Okay.
So, but I'll have to contact her.
Yeah.
And find out. And further, I also came across, I'm gonna call it a pseudo replica. It's not really a replica of the Boston cane, but it is a cane with brass, not gold, that I thought I could try to have it engraved on the top so that it would resemble the real guy. So if that's meets your approval.
I think that's,
I think
Yeah,
that's great.
I think it looks terrific. You could give somebody a heck of a bump with that.
And then I guess it would be up to you whether we actually issue this cane out, because it would be replaceable.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one is not.
Yeah.
And I will continue to figure out.
Yeah,
a
I
way.
think,
I mean, what's the cost on the cane that the replica?
Do you really want to know? $20.
Okay, and the engraving, we don't know how much
Engraving, I
that
don't
is.
The
know, that
engraving
would
would
probably
be
a
the most
lot more than
expensive than-
But,
$20.
I mean, I think that we issue it and let them do with it what they want. And when they pass on, they leave it with their kids or whatever, and we get a new one for the next one.
sounds pretty reasonable.
Should buy some while they're still $20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before there's
Yeah.
supply chain issues.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, make sure you get
Before
plenty,
anybody else that's on the meeting
make
catches
sure you
on
get
it.
plenty of them,
Sure.
because we all plan on getting to be
Yeah.
about 100 years old.
Every town in Maine is gonna be buying them up.
Speak for yourself, John.
you might even, I know the engraving on the end would be best, but you might even be able to get a little plaque. They have those rounded plaques that will screw into things like that too, so check first and then let me know, and
That's
I'll
great.
do a little research to
Yeah,
help
that's
you.
nifty.
But thank
Okay.
you for all your help with that,
Sure.
that's great.
Excellent. Thank you, Claire. All right, consider approval of $375 and,
Did we need to move? And
oh, we do.
Take some action.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
I move that we approve Marie Null as our recipient and figure out how to present that to her depending on her ability to leave her house.
I would second that with congratulations.
Yeah.
Good, excellent. All in favor? Nice, thank you.
And did you want to make a separate motion for me to purchase those cans? Or,
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'll take a motion to do
So
that.
I would move that, why don't you order 12 canes to have?
Is that reasonable, Darrell?
Sure.
I think that's more than any of us will see in our lifetime.
I should
And leave
take it
good
forward
notes
to
as
the
to
next
where they are
generation of
and-
municipal leaders.
That's
Well,
right.
I mean,
we weren't gonna
perhaps,
go through 12 in the next, like.
So should we get 10 or,
If-
I don't know.
well, let's figure on a dollar amount that she can then investigate the cost of the engraving and then purchase what she can with what's left for extra canes. So if we figure on
$250.
$250 to,
That might be the cost of the engraving, I don't know. I don't know how much it's gonna be.
I don't either,
Why don't I,
up to,
Why don't you go ahead and get this one engraved, and we'll deal with that, and then look into it further to figure out bulk.
for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I move that you look into getting the engraving and come back the next meeting with the idea of how much we want to spend for additional canes in the future.
second?
Okay,
Second,
Second,
all in favor? Consider approval of $372.34 plus shipping for the purchase of new courier bags for selectmen business from BOS contingency 122-0001-59350, account with a balance of $9,685.
well, I might want to change my decision about taking out papers after seeing this, but I would move approval under the terms presented.
second,
Okay, all in favor?
I figured you guys need new bags, and I want ones with handles, so.
Oh, that's a good
That would be,
idea.
yeah.
it, actually, that's a great,
Yeah, I mean, you break your nails all the time on them, you know. All right,
Get her a drone too, so she doesn't have to make the policeman drive up my driveway.
that's right. Okay, review and award bid for Mount Desert Fire Station number 1 in Northeast Harbor, expansion project in the amount of $3,872,764.51, contingent on approval by the voters at the May 3rd, 2022 annual town meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
It's been an interesting and challenging journey, I think, to get to this point, but we're finally here. I have Michael Wade here from the design team. He's been with us all along the process to get to this point, so if you have any technical questions or anything like that, I won't have him here to answer those, but I think hopefully everybody's familiar with the project by now. I've talked about it multiple times, it really hasn't changed anything in the last few months. So here we are at this point.
Big part of it is bringing in the three-phase power, and that will cover this side of the building too, correct?
The whole building.
Okay,
Yeah.
so will there be any work that has to be done on this part of the building in regards to that, or is it just?
No, I think the they are gonna be coming in a new entrance, correct?
Right.
Yep. The service entrance is gonna be coming in the new area over here, but it's not gonna involve this part of the building. I think the only thing that in this building that's gonna get touched is that doorway right there.
Yeah, there will be some wiring that needs to take place into the existing panels in the back of the
Police station, right?
That's just gonna be in the ceiling.
Mhm. And then the other question I had was in regards to the EV chargers. And it sounds like those sort of location is still TBD, but it sounds like, I mean, we'll see what happens, but there's a possibility that maybe I was reading into things, but one might be available for public use potentially.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Okay.
I'm still talking to the chief
Right.
to see where they are with their cruisers.
Okay,
I think that was the initial intent, was to
Right.
have one or two for their.
so if you've got three-phase power, can you do like the level 3 chargers, like the fast chargers potentially? Okay, I'm just
I'm not
curious.
sure, yeah.
Need 440 for that. For the charge you just described, 440 voltage. So
Okay.
I think your three-phase power can cover that.
Okay,
Yeah, that's something I can find out, but if it's not included, it probably will be added an additional cost to the.
right.
Right.
Tony's got his hand up.
Tony, go ahead.
Who's the contractor? That's not in the agenda language.
It's King's Construction Service.
Haynes, you say, Mike?
King.
King.
Thank you. Oh, Kings, thank you.
And they have experience with projects of this size, I'm assuming? Okay,
Yeah, we actually met with them by way of video last week after they submitted bids, just to have a conversation with them, asked a lot of questions to make sure they were capable. And they did provide some references, and a couple of larger projects that they had done last year.
okay, good.
We got out of the meeting, both Michael and I were very comfortable with their replies. And they are, if you don't remember, they are also the same construction company that was awarded some of the project that gets treated.
Might be a benefit, actually.
Yeah.
That's true,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So I would move that we award the construction contract to King's Construction Services as presented, if approved at the town meeting.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Let's do it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank
This
you.
was,
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
If it matters for the record, it's King without the S.
oh, sorry,
I don't know if
King.
that matters to you.
It's in here, but it's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
so.
So King.
Yeah.
Okay.
King, yeah.
Item D, March 8, 2022, special town meeting warrant review and votes. We did that.
That's right.
And draft annual town meeting warrant review and votes.
We have a number of those articles that are ready, if you so choose to want to go through some tonight.
I think we should get some out of the way.
The ones that are in green are ready to go. The ones in red will be brought back at a later time.
Okay.
Later on.
Okay, we ready? Here we go. Article 1, to elect a moderator by written ballot.
I don't think you need to.
We don't have to vote on the black ones.
We don't, okay, good. Article 3, shall the town approve the amendment of the town to the town of Mount Desert Charter reprinted below? Shall the town approve the amendment to the town of Mount Desert Charter reprinted below? Okay. So that is,
On page, the next page.
all right, the board shall review every ordinance of the town at least every 5 years to determine if it remains necessary or helpful to the town. The board shall be responsible for maintaining a current codification of all ordinances in effect in the town and shall make copies of said codification available for inspection at the town office or for purchase at a reasonable price.
Basically, that language is already in the charter. What this is doing is they're taking out the section before it, 5.3, to eliminate the sunset clause language.
Yeah.
So we're not adding anything to the charter. We're just removing the one thing causing the sunset clause.
And hopefully this will allow us to proactively fix our Luso as we go without having to go back and correct errors that we've been making for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Article 4, shall the town authorize the state to permit the operation of agency liquor stores on days other than Sunday?
Would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor?
Let you have a turn, Jeff.
Okay. Good. Article 5, to see if non-voters shall be allowed when recognized to speak during this 2022 annual town meeting.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
Good. All in favor? Okay. Again, for Articles 4 through something, an underline indicates an addition and a strike through indicates a deletion. Article 6, shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022, and entitled Town of Mount Desert Alewife Ordinance be enacted.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor?
Legally, we're required to do that annually.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
It's
It's
the
one of my
same
favorite
thing every year.
articles, so.
that's right. Shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, Article 7, shall an ordinance dated May 3rd, 2022, and entitled Public Right-of-Way Ordinance be amended.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Article 8, shall an ordinance entitled Town of Mount Desert Shellfish Conservation Ordinance be amended as follows?
Basically, this and the other one
Yeah.
after this is just removing the sunset clause language.
Okay,
I'd recommend the board, or move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
all in favor? Article 9, shall an ordinance entitled Town of Mount Desert Sewer Ordinance be amended as follows?
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second again.
All in favor? Okay, Article 12, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept conditional gifts, unconditional gifts, equipment proceeds from sale of fire equipment, or funds on behalf of the municipal fire department.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor?
This won't change, this article won't change with us taking over. Is it included? Is that,
This is different.
okay,
Separate.
separate. Okay, sorry, I approve.
That's okay.
Okay, all right. Article 13, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease a portion of the so-called visitor center at the Northeast Harbor Marina to the ticket booth operators for a term of 1 year, beginning July 1, 2022, under such terms and conditions as the board, in its sole discretion, deems in the best interest of the town.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? Article 14, to see if the inhabitants will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease a portion of the visitor center at the Northeast Harbor Marina to the Mount Desert Chamber of Commerce for a term of 1 year.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? See if the, Article 15, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate an agreement with the Neighborhood House Club, Inc. for management and maintenance of the municipal swimming pool.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommend passage.
Second.
All in favor?
And I need to abstain.
And one
But
abstention.
could I make one comment? It's not in relation to that article, but just the pool in general. I don't want to have like a conflict of interest, but I think at some point the town's going to need to consider putting a little money away for, that pool has a lifespan. And to be honest, my recommendation would be to get away from a traditional swimming pool, given how difficult it is to hire lifeguards, for example, or we saw last year with the price of chemicals and even trying to acquire them, how difficult that was. And maybe looking at an alternative like what they have in Ellsworth was, if the voters of the town are still interested in doing something like that, have like a splash pad like they have in Ellsworth or some sort of smaller wading pool. Because if you get into replacing a pool like that, there's a lot of ADA issues and things that come into play, and it adds quite a bit of expense to everything.
Yeah.
So just a recommendation for future
Very good
boards.
point.
Yeah, all right. Okay, Article 16. Shall the town accept ownership of a Forest Hill Cemetery in the event the nonprofit organization that owns the cemetery is disbanded?
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
Yeah, second.
Any comment?
And that's what Rick was here,
Yeah.
a couple months ago.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Let's see. Article 19. see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept and expend on behalf of the town additional state, federal, and other funds received during the fiscal year 22-23.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Article 20, see if the inhabitants of the town will vote to approve July 1 each year as the date on which all taxes shall be due.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? Article 21, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the tax collector to enter into a standard tax club agreement with taxpayers whereby, and I'm not going to read all of this, but are there any substantive changes here? No.
All right, I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
Good, all in favor? Article 22, to see if the town will vote to authorize a tax collector to accept prepayment of property taxes.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Seconded.
All in favor? Article 23, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to set the interest rate to be paid by the town for abated taxes at 2%.
Would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? Article 24, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize expenditures to pay any tax abatements granted by the assessor.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Seconded again.
All in favor? To see if the inhabitants, Article 25, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose by public bid of town-owned property other than real property with a value of $10,000 or less.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Second.
All in favor? Article 26, to see if the inhabitants of town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell at public auction or by advertised sealed bid and to convey titles obtained under tax deeds and under deeds of conveyance to the inhabitants of the town any land and/or buildings, including trailers, in lieu of payment of taxes, except that the selectmen have the power to authorize redemption.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Seconded.
All in favor? Article 27, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to contract for services in amounts not to exceed appropriation for same under such terms and conditions as it deems advisable.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Seconded.
All in favor? Good. Article 34, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote.
Nope, I think you could do 31, right?
Yes,
sorry.
31. Yep, sorry. Article 31, shall the town of Mount Desert be authorized to appropriate an amount not to exceed $448,000 for the Harbor's Marina Enterprise Fund, undesignated fund balance?
We don't have that last part in red. Can we still vote on that if we don't have those
The
items
page
in the
numbers for the
appendix?
appendix.
Yeah, I don't have any of that yet, because I still have Luso things
Right.
coming in, and it's a moving target, so,
So can we approve this?
yeah,
Can
yeah.
we can wait too.
Maybe we should just wait. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't make a difference, but just so we've got the whole thing, I don't know.
I would like that.
And we can
I
do
don't
that.
want Martha to miss all the fun.
No, we have talked about this before, though.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, all it is it's like page numbering when I get to the appendices and I get them in there.
So this is
All
replacing
right,
the
yeah,
pure,
okay.
basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, whatever you got.
Then I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
I'll second that, yeah.
All in favor? Article 32, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to transfer $700,000 from the undesignated fund balance to reduce the tax commitment.
It's a bigger number than we've had in
Yeah.
past years.
Yes.
Is that just because the market's been
Well,
doing well, or?
this is this is following up on the discussion that we had when you guys all
Fire
decided you wanted to go with
To
bonding.
bond it?
Right.
Essentially, the $700,000 number gets me back to the target fund balance that was derived from the 2017 town meeting.
Okay.
Every meeting since then, the town has said, hey, use the undesignated fund balance to reduce taxes. That's been voted, and fund balance continues to increase because revenues are exceeding expenditures. This is going to allow us to pull more than we normally would, and so in that $700,000 number is a round number that gets us essentially back to that 2017 target. And the analysis of that basically is unchanged from the Soamesville project when it was used, except that instead of $1 million, you plug in 700,000.
Right.
Okay. Do we just recommend passage, or do we have to recommend that amount? I guess just
Just
passage.
recommend passage of
All right,
articles as is.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends passage.
Seconded.
All in favor? Article 33, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to transfer $300,000 from the capital gains reserve account to reduce the 22-23 tax commitment.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends passage of that also.
I would second that.
Okay, all
You
in
were
fa-
slow.
All in favor?
You've got it from here on out.
Okay, sorry.
I need a break.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right.
Article 34, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and or appropriate as revenue through excise taxes, service fees, and miscellaneous sources for 22-23 town budget. The selectmen recommend $1,496,647. Is that pretty hard and fast?
Yeah, I've given, you've gotten the revenue estimate worksheet as part of that, and that's taken off of that number.
Okay,
This would be a good year for revenues, the state is up in theirs, and things are looking quite good right now.
good.
So how do we move forward on that article?
The Board of
Recommend-
Selectmen recommends,
This amount.
$1,496,647.
and I'll second that.
Good, all in favor? Okay, municipal appropriations, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 200 through 251, general government. Board of Selectmen recommends $1,541,146.
Well, I would move, well, go ahead.
I was going to say, these numbers are based off your review.
Right,
yeah.
They haven't
right.
changed since you reviewed the budget.
So I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $1,541,146.
And I would second that.
Good, all in favor?
That's right.
Good. To see what some of the inhabitants, Article 36, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 300 general assistance support for the 22-23 town budget. Board of Selectmen recommends $5,000.
I would move that we recommend the voters of town to raise and appropriate $5,000 for this purpose.
I would second that.
Good, all in favor? We generally don't use all that, do we?
No, we don't, and of course, for every dollar that we send in to the state, we get 70 cents back, so it's actually much more than that when you get right down to it. And of course, the general assistance is an article that you have to, if somebody comes in and replies, it doesn't matter if you spend all the money, you have to appropriate it, so there's a safety valve there for sure, but no, we've never spent it all since I've been here.
Okay, did we vote?
We did.
We did, okay. Article 37, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 350 rural wastewater support for the 22-23 town budget.
I would,
Go ahead.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $205,805 for Department 350. Rural wastewater
I
support.
don't think I can go on this one.
I'll second that.
Okay, good. Any further discussion? All in favor?
And I'll abstain on this one, just in case.
Oh, okay. Article 38, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 406 streetlights for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $10,500 for Department 406 streetlights.
I would second that.
All in favor? Article 39, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 401, 405, 407, and 408 public safety, police, and communications dispatch for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends a total of $1,465,202, broken down as outlined in Article 39.
I would second that.
All in favor? See what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 403, 404, and 409 Public Safety, Fire Department, Hydrants and Emergency Management for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $2,271,588 for those departments outlined and broken down like is in Article 40.
I would second that.
All in favor? Article 41, to see what the sum of the inhabitants of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 501, 515, 520, and 525 Public Works, Roads, Waste Management, Buildings and Grounds, Parks, Cemeteries, and 530 Environmental Sustainability for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $2,880,461 for the departments broken down as described in Article 41.
I would second that.
All in favor? Article 42, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 505 and 506 sewers, wastewater treatment for this 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $1,134,258 broken down as described in Article 42.
I would second that.
All in favor? Article 43, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 605 Recreation.
I would move the Board of Selectmen recommends $5,900 for Department 605 Recreation.
And I would second that.
All in favor?
One abstention.
Article 44, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 701 Economic Community Development for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $10,000 towards Department 701 Economic Community Development.
I would second that.
All in favor? Article 45, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 801 Debt Service for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $1,736,705 towards Department 801 Debt Service.
I would second that.
All in favor? Article 47, to see what some of the inhabitants of the town will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 991 Capital Improvement Plan transfers for the 22-23 town budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends $1,069,436 for Department 991 Capital Improvement Plan transfers.
I would second that.
All in favor? Excellent. Marina Proprietary Fund, Article 49, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to ratify the Board of Selectmen's approval of the Marina Proprietary Fund budget.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen recommends ratification.
I would second that.
All in favor?
That's it.
And that's it, guys.
Good work.
I hope Martha won't be disappointed.
Oh, we've got a few for her.
Oh, okay. Good. And
Not too many.
ACTT might have something too. so.
Yeah.
All right.
John, can we talk about that just for a second? If there's any of the funds that we do want, shouldn't that just be increased for the environmental sustainability lines that we already have in the
I thought about that as we went through it. Depends on how much it is. You know, if it's a big chunk of money, you don't want to hide it in there. You need to pull it
I
out.
don't think this is being hidden, I think it's pretty transparent where it is. I mean, you'd have to create a new warrant article specifically for that.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah,
I don't feel like we need to hide anything from anybody ever.
that's not what I said.
Is this for funds specific for the steps we'll be taking in phase 1 of the action plan, or is this somehow to fund something we did? climate to thrive.
This is, for example, there's a group called ICE that has
Oh, the
that,
greenhouse gas.
the greenhouse gas checkup, whatever it is. Anyway, that's gonna be about $1,700.
Okay.
And there are little items like that, but
So is that not in, there's the line item in Tony's budget? Is it included in that, or do we need to maybe potentially increase that a little bit?
That's what I'm bringing up.
well,
Okay.
we can either revisit that and increase
Okay.
it, or we can write a new article. And it all depends. At some point, maybe that will be its
Tony's
own.
got his hand up.
Tony, go ahead.
This is the first I've heard of that, but I believe we can cover it in the budget. We have a contingency. You said 1,700, right, John, not 17,000?
1,700, yeah.
Yep, yeah, I believe we can cover it.
If I'm not mistaken, you're concerned that if the other things like that pop up, like we want them to be.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, there are gonna be other things that crop up. Do we want to continue to keep them in line by themselves, or do we want to break it out into a separate article? Or, I don't have any preference, actually.
The most scalable option.
Go ahead.
Is probably just to increase the
Yeah,
current line.
that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So we can revisit that. So you want to make a notation to revisit that article? when we
He's
have
got
it.
his hand up again.
Tony, go ahead.
There's a couple of general lines in that environmental sustainability budget, one of which is contingency. There's another for technical services. And those aren't encumbered at this point.
For those, building audits, there's another charger for Main Street. So I see building audits and doing a carbon study, like I put in money, the 1,700, I don't see that as a huge expense. We're talking 500, if we want to change the entire heating system in the school, that's another story. That's a huge hit. We want to change how this building is heated. That's a huge hit. That's those type of items I think need to go to the voters and that they understand why the town is spending that huge amount of money. This is still for study and service, like Tony's mentioning.
Okay. I don't know what their whole list is going to be. Based on our last meeting with them, there was nothing.
Basically, it was just basically the plan needs to be addressed during the comprehensive plan, and I think we need to have a plan as a town. When are we gonna do the comprehensive plan? That's how it was left, I thought, when we ended the meeting, at least from how we discussed everything. I think the town has, I'm sitting here reading the draft, and there's, there's a lot of things in here. The technical side is very good.
Yeah.
And I think the town can, that's something that needs to be here in this town office, and I think it needs to be brought up at times when, especially during our capital improvement plans, and anytime any purchases are being made, or any maintenance and rebuilding, this is where this is coming from. And it's basically a roadmap for the town, is how they're explaining it.
Yeah.
And that's how I understand it. If I'm wrong, I'd like to know I'm wrong, so we can.
Yeah, I think the point was, though, that I think I made it during our meeting, was that there was nothing in there that we had to rush into the warrant. There were no budget items, and there were no ordinance changes.
Correct.
Right.
That's where I brought up during that.
So that being said, and that's great, I think that it'll evolve as we go forward, but we don't need it right here now. Okay, and if they have any little pieces that they want to put into the budget, we can either make a separate line. It would be easier to change that line and right there, but not knowing what they've got in mind, because she had a little list that she sent me today that I looked at, and it looked like there were more things in there.
Well, yeah, I didn't see the list.
Okay. All right, so anyway. All right. Revenue budget review.
Just a reminder, if you guys want to save those, then pull it out of your finance, slip it in a pocket or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when I clean up the binders, it'll be gone.
And our budget binders are here.
Yes, yeah, we can put them right in there. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that would be good.
I've got a question, it's not necessarily about the figure, but this is the first time we've had EMS revenue. And I was just wondering, like, what sort of, I'm assuming most of that is from like transfers of individuals, either,
Yeah, most of it for ambulance, so.
right. So I was just wondering, like, what sort of paperwork does that bring along for you guys?
Right now, it looks like we're gonna be able to have Bar Harbor, billing for us.
Okay,
It's not 100% sure right now, but they've assured me that probably can take this on, which will cut down the paperwork. Yeah,
good,
it's all electronically transferred through the reporting. They're already set up to do Bar Harbor Fire Department, it's just a matter of tweaking the software, making some changes. And my last conversation with them, they're willing to take that off for us. So
Okay.
it should be very little to, I would say no big.
Okay.
I think Jake's happy about that too.
I just want to make sure no one like
Bar Harbor, but-
had to be on hold with like someone at the Medicare office saying, hey, where's our reimbursement?
Yeah, no, that's what the billing agent will do.
Okay.
If they didn't do that, then we probably would be looking for a third party.
Okay.
for us. They typically, the billing agents take a percentage. We haven't worked that out yet with Bar Harbor, so I don't know what that is. I don't dare guess. I mean, it's gonna be the single percentage numbers, but I know, I think the third party agency that the ambulance using now, I think they were right around 3%, 4%, something like that.
This is already a really high, uncollectible debt type of, billing. So you kind of factor that in, it seems like it will save the town a lot of money to not have to have town employees doing that, especially when we can tap into established, experience and knowledge instead of having to craft it from the ground up here.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing in here that really
No,
excited my,
just that the 700,000 and the 300,000 are the big,
yeah.
the things that make that end number seem so odd.
Yeah.
And then the parking fees is a new, I guess that's always been.
It's the Prairie Real is most of that.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. We don't anticipate any, with our looking into new parking systems, that isn't factored in for this fiscal year at all.
Right.
It'll be a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
You put a kiosk around.
Oh, I knew it'd be a little while. I just, too soon to project, but
Yeah.
not at all in here. Okay. We don't need to do anything about that.
You don't? Anybody have any comments? Then I think I will move on to other business, any other business? Well, I guess, is it Chris Willis in Seal Harbor that's gonna be joining us next meeting?
Jim Willis is gonna talk to him,
Okay.
and then we'll see if it's next meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll let Jim make the decision on that.
That's just to catch us up on the parking situation in Seal Harbor and some possible ways to.
So
Okay.
it'll be soon.
Did you happen, just on that note, with the Jordan Pond, have you been paying attention? Apparently, there's some discussion about the Jordan Pond house perhaps being completely rebuilt.
I saw that, it was in the paper today, actually.
Yeah, $10 million, because it's got water damage and the renovation would be unreasonably difficult, but it's not, I mean, obviously not this year, but coming soon. There will be a significant upheaval over in that section.
Yeah. There was, I think 10 million was actually the low number. They
Yeah,
said
for-
like 10 to 20.
That's right, yeah.
And they
yeah.
did say to, like, the front side towards the water, they have done some recent landscaping and stuff there, so they were thinking that would remain the same. But it sounded like they could redo the building and potentially make some changes to the parking area and
lots
entrance.
stuff,
So
right.
does that mean they, I
don't
mean, I
know
hope
what
it means they
means.
gain a lot of
It's gonna be
spaces, but
interesting.
we'll
But
see
it's
what.
something that we ought to be in touch with at the very
Yeah.
least as we move forward with our thoughts on all those discussions about the road and the bikes and the, you know,
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's
Yeah.
totally different
Maybe,
operating
maybe you
system,
could
but
stick a couple of truck bays over there.
sure, there you go.
You know,
Anyway, I had
Yeah.
not heard that till, I think it was today that I heard that the first time.
it would give you a good spot, wouldn't it?
Fire department.
All right, that's interesting. I wasn't following that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just today they announced that.
Boy, that's a little tiny road for a big construction project.
We'll get complaints from Mike. I'm sure.
We'll get complaints before anything even happens down there, you know. Okay. All right, treasurers, any other unfinished business? No, any other business, rather? Okay, treasurer's warrants, approve and sign treasurer's warrant, town invoice AP 2245 in the amount of $691,156.87.
Would move approval?
Second.
All
All
in
right,
favor?
you can take. It's your turn again.
No, I have to abstain from this next
Oh,
one, so you're
geez.
on.
All right, fine.
Okay, approve state fees and payroll benefits, AP 2242, AP 2243, AP 2244, town payroll PR 2216 and PR 2217 in the amount of $330,366.41.
Would move signature?
Second.
All in favor?
One
One
abstention.
abstention. Acknowledge school invoice number 9, number 15, and number 16 in the amount of $317,419.78.
Would move acknowledgement?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone. That was very productive.
Thank you. When is our next?